Well, hello. It's another weekend, and we are in another segment of $5 in the World, the YouTube channel where I spend some time talking about this book project I'm working on. And the premise of it is story, or the foundation of it are stories and sayings that my dad shared over the 101 years of his life. And it's been something on my mind for a long, long time. And I finally got motivated enough or driven enough to want to start writing these down. And one of the ways I've been keeping myself on task is coming on every week and talking about one of the chapters or an idea for a chapter or some of the background material for the book, and spend about 15 to 30 minutes here live, usually, sometimes recorded. Just talk about what I'm doing, what it's like to try to work on something that I've never done before. I've written lots of papers, lots of speeches, lots of articles, or posts or things like that. I've done a lot of writing, but never a book. Not really, and at all. And so this is new. The writing's not new, but the idea of writing a book and trying to put it together, and then the next step will be finding someone who will publish it, and somebody who will promote it, and somebody who will buy it. I mean, that's down the road. Right now, I just have to do the day-to-day work of thinking, researching, writing, remembering, writing, editing, all those kind of things. The heavy lifting of doing it, and doing it consistently. That's the biggest thing about it that I've learned, that we have an impression that artistic or creative work is done by inspiration. Like you're sitting around and you just wait, and all of a sudden an idea hits, or all of a sudden you get this urge or this energy to go and paint or sculpt or write or sing or write music or play guitar or whatever. And sometimes it does happen. Sometimes you just get this powerful impulse to do it. I call it a God moment, but other people, it's inspiration. That happens. Um, but I've learned, and the more I study like creativity and stuff, the more I realize to wait for that's a mistake. Um, a lot of times action will lead to inspiration. So if we're sitting, and that goes for anything, even if it's not a creative enterprise, maybe it's just something you've been thinking about doing, like even a chore or a project or a job thing or just a relationship move. Um, Instead of waiting around for the right feeling to do it, start doing it. And sometimes the action will bring the feeling. A lot of times the discipline brings the inspiration. Now, once the inspiration kicks in, then it's kind of a turbocharged effect. But discipline brings inspiration because movement and results and effort in a direction is inspiring. I mean, when you think about it, you feel at your best, you feel most alive when you're actually doing something you said you wanted to do. Or when a plan that you've been directed towards by a coach or a manager or a leader starts working, and it inspires us. Now, once we're inspired, then that will lead to want to bring more discipline to it, because once we see a cause and effect, we see an action, a reaction, a result that we're after, then that makes us just want to do it more. And then the inspiration and the discipline and the dedication, they all start working in a kind of a synergy, or it builds up. And I just think that's really great. And that's what having this channel has helped me with, is I know it's coming. I don't want to ever come on here and say, geez, I didn't really do anything this week. I'm not. I, so it works so there's the discipline of being on here every week, which also enhances the discipline of writing every week. And the more feedback I get, and the more pages that start to stack up, the more inspired I'm to keep doing it. So the inspiration and discipline do work together. And that's the main reason I decided to add this element to the writing process, because I really like hearing back from people. And it's a great way to, I guess, preview or pre-promote the book. When it does finally get ready, people have something to look back on, and there'll be a body of work to underpin the body of work. And I think it's just good practice to get used to talking publicly like this. And so thanks for being here. It's good to see you, Shelley, and anyone else that's either comes on live while we're going or comes back and looks at it in replay. The chapter I want to write about today, or the chapter I wrote for today, is called Stay Teachable. You ever get the feeling that you've got things kind of all figured out, Or you ever have the sense like you're done, like you know what you need to know, you're satisfied with what you think and what you believe, and you really spend the rest of your time just defending a position or reinforcing a position. I think we see that a lot, especially in the days of social media. People really stake out strong positions and kind of like dig in, and they spend most of their time looking for reinforcement of the idea that they've got or looking for ways to attack the idea that somebody else has got. There's not doesn't seem to be a lot of engagement with the intention of learning something new from somebody else or connecting with somebody in a way where you might just learn something or with the intention of actually trying to share sincerely what you think and believe without trying to score points or without trying to win the argument, but just to reach some kind of understanding, even if there's not agreement. We can still learn from each other if we come at our conversations or our confrontations with that idea. But that doesn't seem to really be the motivation very often today. And I think it's sad. And I think it makes people dumber because the only way we learn is to approach things with a certain level of curiosity, a certain humility that maybe there's something here I don't know. Maybe there's something here I can learn. Maybe there's something new here. We know just from a technology standpoint that things we have to learn new things almost it seems like every day. Our software on our phones, our apps, they update regularly. And all of a sudden we have to learn a slightly different format for an app we've been using for a while. Or there's a whole brand new invention that comes into play. Cell phones are less than 20 years old or less than 30 years old. I mean, they haven't been around all that long. And we had to figure out how all that stuff, if we were born before they came along, we had to figure all that stuff out. I got a friend of mine, well, his name's Dana. He's been sitting he was in state penitentiary for 20 years, almost 20 years. He got a smartphone the other day. Now, when he went in, they really didn't have those. Right? You think back 20 years ago, you had like pretty much flip phones and maybe a BlackBerry, which is another thing that came and went. I mean, who has a BlackBerry anymore? But when they were around, I had one. They were a big deal. They're gone. Um, Listen, talking to him about how he's trying to figure out how all that stuff works is a little overwhelming. And it just keeps coming. And if we don't stay open-minded about learning new things, even if it's just technological stuff, we're going to get left behind in a way or like feel out of the loop or disconnected from everybody else around us. Um, but it's not just technology, it's new ideas, new ways of looking at things. As we get new information, we should look for ways for it to expand what we know and believe instead of looking at a way to just reject it, or make sure it already agrees with what we already believe. We we filter a lot of new information instead of analyze it. We analyze it for fit. We don't analyze it for accuracy or value. And I think that's a mistake. And my dad had a philosophy that I think works better. And that's what I want to talk about today is how did my dad look at incorporating new information? How did my dad look at contending with and dealing with ideas that were different than what he had or than what he already had. And I think, and he came an expression for it, and he used it with us kids. I mean, from the earliest time of my life, I can remember him saying something along the lines of what I'm going to share with you today. The expression he used was stay teachable. And even, you know how stubborn little kids can get. I was a stubborn little kid. I think every little kid can be really stubborn. And my dad would use that expression to encourage me and then my brother later to at least be open to the possibility. My dad was more of a persuasive parent than a demanding parent. If he had a direction he wanted us to go, or he had a decision he wanted to kind of lead us into, he wanted us to take, a behavior he wanted us to shift, it- he didn't usually rely on the authority of his position as dad and being the biggest person in the house. It was more of a persuasion approach and try to show us and explain to us or get us to look into it for ourselves and come to a conclusion that would make sense or lead us in the direction he wanted us to go. And and one of the ways he would do that is if we would react to an idea he had with kind of a closed-mindedness or a stubbornness, he would say, "Hey, stay teachable." It was his way of saying, at least consider it. Don't just reject it because it's new or different or weird or you just don't want to. You might not still want to, but at least come to understand what's really being offered. Come to understand what he's proposing. It was a very patient thing to do, and a lot of parents don't have the energy for it or the upbringing to do it that way. But it sounds like to me, listen to the stories he told of his childhood and the way his parents raised him, and then the fact that he was a little bit older when we were born. He was a little more stable financially. He was a little more mature. He was a little more settled in himself. He wasn't a kid having kids. I think gave him a perspective to have a little bit more of like say, a patient, calm, you know, tolerant approach to things. He wasn't in a hurry with us, which I always, looking back at it, I realized what a gift that was. Um, and watching, my friends and their parents' interaction, a lot of times it wasn't like like what I experienced at home. It was a lot more conventional, like do it because I said so, or if you don't do it, you're grounded, or I'll take away your allowance. Or there was always a lot kind of a more stick than carrot in a lot of parental kid relationships I saw around me. And I'm not saying those were bad or wrong. I'm just saying they were a lot different. So my dad's answer to us pushing back against an idea he had or whatever is like, hey, stay teachable. Think this through. So that's what I want to talk about today. Where did that come from and how does that work? And how does it mean more than just reading another book? All right. So let me know what you think. Stay teachable. There is a dynamic connection between curiosity and an appetite for learning. It can foster humility as well. Curiosity contains the awareness that we don't know everything, that there is always something new to discover. My dad regularly reminded us to stay teachable. He loved to read, and that never left him. He and my mom, also a reader, installed a love for reading in us by reading to us every night. They would read a wide variety of books, and they encouraged us to read for ourselves. I remember asking my dad a question, and he would often answer it like this: I'll tell you the answer, but when you learn how to read, you'll be able to find that out for yourself. I believe that this statement inspired me to read more than anything else anybody ever said. I learned to read before I went to school. Even when his eyesight made it harder to read, he'd listen to audiobooks. He would watch the news, probably too much. He read the newspaper. He attended seminars. He engaged people in conversation, and it usually ended up with him asking them about things that they knew that he didn't. At the same time, he would hold up his end of the conversation when it came to sharing his knowledge and opinions. Even then, he would share his ideas in the nature of teaching or coaching. He possessed an ability to translate concepts into applications, ideas into actions. I believe that his picking up information and ideas wherever he could contributed to his excellent memory as well as his gift for storytelling. He had natural intelligence, and he developed it with his habits. I only knew this version of Dad. I know that in his early days, he was much more headstrong and self centered. He didn't think it was a coincidence that his success and sense of fulfillment increased drastically when he returned to his youthful curiosity and willingness to learn. He taught us the importance of learning by what it was like to live without it and how exciting it could be to embrace it. I think about the span of 101 years that he lived and the variety of things he needed to learn, ideas to process, cultural shifts to adapt to, and technological innovations he had to process. It proved extremely beneficial to him that that he leaned into the next coming thing. He maintained core beliefs, but with a flexibility about processes. It gave him a stability amidst the whirlwind that was the 20th century and the beginning of the 21st century. Think of it this way. He remembers when the house he grew up in got electricity and a telephone and a radio. In America, it wasn't until 1924 that 50% of the households had electricity. It'd be 1949 before the number of homes with electricity reached 90%. Or in 1903, the Wright brothers made their flight. It lasted less than 2 minutes. 66 years later, Neil Armstrong was walking on the moon. The internet became publicly available in 1994 and reached 50% of households by 2001. The atomic bomb was invented and used in 1945. The Soviet Union came into being and collapsed in his lifetime. These examples show that innovation has been broad based and that its creation and proliferation continue at an increasingly rapid pace. If a person doesn't commit to being teachable, obsolescence is inevitable. The reminder to stay teachable served us well in school and beyond. I came to see school as a place to acquire and share information and knowledge, and not just a thing to endure. It's the process of learning that mattered. Everything has the potential to be a lesson, a teachable moment. We learn from the wisdom of others and from our own mistakes. Learning knowledge from others is less painful. He wasn't just a collector of ideas. He applied them if they held promise of better outcomes than the ones he was already getting. He looked for an edge, for a better way of doing things. At the same time, he knew what he believed and why he believed it. This creative tension made him stronger and sharper than he would otherwise be. He did not fear hearing other ideas or beliefs. He had confidence in his own. He did want to know what others thought and why they thought it. He really did think that he could learn something from anyone, even if it was learn something to avoid. He came to understand that by possessing clarity about his own views and sense of self, he could make plenty of room for people with other perspectives because his peace of mind wasn't dependent on what other people believed. Learning is uplifting, but without application, it's just entertainment. He wanted both, to know more and to do more. There's a tendency to seek out safe spaces and like minded circles, and to some degree, this is healthy. However, if we isolate ourselves from other ideas and perspectives, then we shrink our world and our resiliency suffers. Our possibilities contract. If we stick only with what we know, our options shrink. By staying teachable, we can be there for the next thing, meet new people, stay useful, be productive. When we stay teachable, we can maintain a sense of wonder and resist the impulse for cynicism or a fatigue with life. Dad stayed fresh and engaged his whole life. At his memorial service, there were several people who had only known him over the last 3 years of his life. He had made friends with them at a time of life when too many lived lives of desperate isolation. There are numerous practical reasons to stay teachable, but the best reason to stay teachable is the richness of life it generates. And it is never too late to start, and there is never a time to stop. That's my chapter on my dad's saying of stay teachable. I hope it helps. I hope you found it interesting. I hope there's something there you can use. I think, like I said, in this day and age, there's such a strong impulse to view all kinds of information through the eyes of, do I agree with it or not? Did the right person say it or not? Is it from the team I agree with already? We look at information as a way to reinforce what we already believe, or to reject it because it doesn't match up with something we already believe. Now, that doesn't mean everything's right. I'm not a relativist, and neither was my dad. But I do think that there's a little bit of something in everybody's life that is useful, maybe a lot of something. And everybody has, something to share, something to offer. And it's up to us to be able to discern what that is and not be so scared of what other people think and believe. Now, again, that doesn't mean everybody's right, but it means I should at least hear it out. I need it, especially if I don't agree with it. I have to know what they're thinking. There might be a way for me to persuade them to think otherwise. There might be a way for me to learn something to avoid. It might be a way for me to learn something to 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 be aware of, to be on guard against, or something that I can incorporate in my life and make it better than it already is. But the bottom line is keep learning new stuff. If a friend of mine said, if you know how to read and you don't read, you're functionally illiterate. Meaning, it's not that you can't read, but if you don't read, you might as well be illiterate, right? So take advantage of the gift of reading and listening on, and of course, there's YouTube stuff. You can learn from that too. There's all kinds of way to learn stuff, and we should just take it all in, sort it out, and keep what helps us, keep what feels true, and and learn even from the other stuff. It's good to learn what not to do too, right? We can learn from negative examples as well. And that's why engaging with people, even if we might not agree with them on stuff, is a great way to learn, because if our arguments can't hold up to somebody else's argument, maybe we do need to change our idea. Um, and if we don't know how to make the case against somebody else's best case, then we have some learning, we have some work to do on our intellect or on our ability to express ourselves. So there's really, I don't see any downside to not staying teachable, learning, coming at things with some humility, realizing I think I'm right, but I might not be, is a great way to enter into conversations. Be willing to be persuaded, but also, again, that clarity of what I believe and why I believe it really helps. So I'm not so anxious and defensive about conversations like that. I've made my life. I'll just share this with you, Shelly, real quick, since right now it's you and me talking. I saw that your son Dakota is looking at a sales career. You shared that. And I didn't know if he had a background in sales or not, but I've been in sales for 40 years. And if he wants somebody to talk to, talk a little shop, I do some sales coaching and training. I would help him out if he'd be interested. And I'd love to hear what it is he's selling and what he's working on and what he's trying to do. And if he was interested in that, I'd be more than happy to talk to him about it on a regular. I mean, I think selling's awesome. And I love it when people take that chance, betting on themselves to do it. And anytime I can help somebody get better at it, I love to do that. Cars and trucks. I used to sell manufactured homes, mobile homes. It's a very similar dynamic, different product, but the same kind of setup. I think I used to manage a lot of guys that came to this mobile home industry from the car industry. So I got and a lot of my friends still sell cars. I would be happy to talk shop with Dakota if he wants to. So you can share. I think you have my number. You can share my number with him. You can turn him on to this YouTube channel. Whatever you think will help. I'd be happy. I'm there for it. Okay. All right. So part of staying teachable also means stay willing to teach others. So that's what I'm doing. So I'll be more than willing to share some ideas and thoughts. Uh, And I found a lot of times when I'm in, sharing some things, teaching some things, I'm learning while I'm teaching. And I love to do that too. So there it is. Stay teachable and stay willing to teach. Keep learning and be willing to share what you know. And with that kind of interaction, that's how we all get better at what we do. We live, scripture talks about iron sharpening iron, and that idea that if I have something to share, if I have some wisdom to share, I should share it. And if somebody has some wisdom to share with me, I should take it in. And it goes back and forth, kind of like, a loop. And I think that's awesome. All right. So that's it for today. Stay teachable and be willing to teach. And I look forward to getting together again next week, usually on Fridays. Once in a while, it bleeds over into Saturdays. But my goal is to be here every weekend for at least 15 to 30 minutes, just like today. Thanks for being here. Like and share it, subscribe, get the word out. I'd love for more people to come on, just to get more feedback and to share these ideas with more people. So thanks, Shelly. I hope I hear from Dakota. It's always nice to chat with you. Have a great weekend. What's left of it. Be well. Tell Greg I said hi, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye for now.